Honestly, I can't help but feel horrible for Bradley Beal. I mean, he's playing his heart out, he's carrying the Wizards to maybe a playoff spot this year. They're just 4.5 games back from the 8th seed, but he's playing his heart out, and honestly, his supporting cast just isn't giving him enough support to help him get over that hump. And it's clear that he's getting really frustrated in Washington. I mean, he just dropped 108 points in back-to-back games, and both of those games turned out to be L's. You saw the visible frustration in his face in that one viral clip, and I won't blame him. Washington is in a pretty bad, maybe one of the worst situations in the league right now. First off, let me talk about Bradley Beal and give him the praise he deserves. He definitely deserved to be an all-star, and for some reason he wasn't picked one, maybe because of team success, but I'm tired of hearing that excuse. There's no way that a man who averaged 29 points pre-all-star game, and now he's averaging near 45 points post-all-star game, shouldn't have been an all-star. On the year he's averaging 30.1 points, which is good for second in the league behind James Harden, and 6 assists, which is pretty solid for an off-guard. And Beal is one of the most elite offensive talents we have in this game today. His game is just so smooth and it looks so effortless. He has that pull-up mid-range jumper, which a lot of players don't really have in their arsenal anymore, and he has the ability to hit the 3-point jumper, whether it be off the dribble, coming off a screen, or even a catch-and-shoot situation. And people may argue that Beal's 3-point shooting numbers are down, but have you thought of the difficulty or the degree of difficulty of shots that he has to take this season because John Wall is injured and he's the only guy who can make his own shot on the team? So you can cut him some slack there, but he's also taking it to the rim at an elite rate, shooting 68.7% at the rim on 262 attempts per Basketball Reference. Beal is also getting to the free throw line at an extremely high rate, shooting 84.5% on 8.2 attempts. I think it's safe to say that Beal's a pretty good offensive player. I mean, he can shoot from anywhere on the court, he can finish around or even over defenders, he has the explosiveness to throw it down at times, and he gets to the free throw line and shoots pretty well at an elite rate. So what seems to be the problem? Well, the Wizards have really failed to give Beal a good supporting cast, especially on the defensive end, which is admittedly one of his weaknesses. Looking at the advanced stats, the Wizards are not a terrible offensive team. I mean, they rank 13th in the league in offensive rating with a score of 111.1. But the main problem comes at the defensive end. Their defensive rating is 115.2, meaning that they give up 115.2 points per 100 possessions, and that is the worst mark in the league. It's even worse than teams such as the Cleveland Cavaliers, Atlanta Hawks, and Portland Trail Blazers. And to make matters worse, the Wizards are giving up the second most points per game in the league at 116.9. And if you look at their roster, this shouldn't really come as a surprise to you. The Wizards have an extremely weird core. Yes, they have Bradley Beal, but aside from that, they have a couple of role players who are putting up between 15 and 10 points per game, which is pretty good. They don't have John Wall right now, who is one of their best, if not their best defensive player, so that really hurts them in that department as well. But aside from Wall, looking at their roster, the only solid or somewhat solid perimeter defenders on their team is Troy Brown Jr., Gary Payton II, and at times Isaac Bonga. But the main theme between those three guys is you can't really play them for an extended period of time before they start breaking down on the defensive end. Rui Hachimura has also shown some potential on the defensive end as well to be a 3-and-D guy in the future, but he's extremely young, so it'll take time to develop him as well. And then you combine this lack of perimeter defense with a pretty poor interior defense as well. They have guys such as Thomas Bryant and Ian Mahinmi who are average to somewhat below average shot blockers. I mean, Ian Mahinmi leads the team in blocks, but he's only averaging 1.2 per game. The next up is Thomas Bryant, who is averaging 0.9. And the theme with their big men, their interior defenders, is that they aren't really those physical bruisers that a team really needs. They need at least one of those guys on a team to set the tone for the interior defense. They have guys like Mahinmi who could be that guy, but he's aged and he's not really who he was on the Pacers. Thomas Bryant has the potential, but he's pretty young and is still developing. Davi Bertans prefers to stay on the perimeter, and the same can be said for Moritz Wagner. And on top of this lack of perimeter defense from the big guys, they also don't really rebound at a good rate. Currently they are 26th in the league in rebounding, averaging just 42.4 per game. and their leading guy is Thomas Bryant, who's currently only averaging 7.3 per game. So let's sum up the Wizards team. They have a pretty average middle of the pack offense. Combine it with poor perimeter defense and poor rebounding and poor interior defense, and it's no surprise why the Wizards are in the position they are right now. And you may be asking to yourself, why don't the Wizards just make a move in the offseason? Well, here's the problem. John Wall is making about $40 million per year through the 2022-23 season. Beal is making around $35 to $37 million through the 2022-23 season as well. They are taking up about 50% of the cap. And one of their most important players, Davis Bertans, the three-point specialist, the three-point marksman, who's averaging 3.5 three-pointers per game, is currently expiring this offseason, meaning they're gonna want to re-sign him for maybe around $12 million to $15 million, given that he's having a breakout year so far. And the Wizards really don't have that much cap aside from that. Projected for 2020-21 season, they have only $14.9 million in cap space, meaning they can only sign Bertans, or they could go and sign another defensive big, but that could compromise the good spacing Bertans gives. And honestly, I can't really see them making any more cap space. They have a bunch of guys who are on low-end deals who wouldn't really make that big of a difference. And what the biggest problem in my opinion is John Wall's massive contract, which no NBA team really wants because he's an extremely big question mark, an extremely big wild card coming off an Achilles injury. And not many teams, if any, want to take this gamble on Wall, considering he really relies on his athleticism and his speed, and he's currently signed for the next 3 years at $40 million per year. And I'm not saying that Wall can't return to the level he was playing at before the injury, because it's definitely possible, but the odds are stacked against him. We've seen what an Achilles injury does to former NBA players. They really become a shell of their former self. So honestly, the situation for the Wizards is looking pretty bad right now, and honestly, I think the Wizards should just tank for the rest of the season and hopefully get as high a draft pick as possible, because they really need that young talent in the team. I think that they should just ride Wall and Beal out till the end of their contracts, maybe trade Beal at the second to final year or the final year of his contract, and honestly just start a full rebuild. By trading Beal, you'll get a lot of young assets for him, given that he's still an elite talent at just 26 years old, and Beal will finally get to play on another team and see what it's like outside of Washington. So yeah, the Wizards are in a pretty tough spot, and unfortunately for Bradley Beal, it doesn't seem like it's gonna get better anytime soon. They'll pretty much be one of those lower end Eastern Conference playoff teams who don't really have a chance at making the finals. Thank you very much for watching, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of the video. Do you think the Wizards should trade Beal for assets and just start a rebuild already, or should they ride it out with Wall and Beal? Let me know in the comments below. But with all that being said, I appreciate all the support we've been getting lately. We're at 750 subscribers and we're almost at 1,000, so share this video and let your friends subscribe so we can hit that goal. But with all that being said, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you know when I upload. And with all that being said, have a good day or night wherever you are.